rich and nutritious, and oh so flavorful. In this video, we'll show you how to make the best homemade bone broth you'll ever taste. In Italy, this classic stock is used to accompany tortellini, but it's the same basic bone broth that accompanies many traditional dishes in Italy, France, and many other countries. This bone broth is a so-called white stock, known as a fond blanc in French cooking. These are the ingredients for making 8 liters, or 2 gallons, of finished broth. Our ingredients include beef ribs, brisket, beef joints such as knees or shins, and a small whole chicken cut in half. For the aromatics, we need onion, celery, carrot, and a little herb bouquet with parsley stems, thyme, and a bay leaf. And finally, some cloves. We can just stick those whole in the onion. For a good tasting broth, we need to start with good water. So you'll want to avoid water that's full of chlorine, limestone, or that smells like dirt or sulfur, essentially your tap water. And of course, we'll need the right size stock pot for the job, a pot that can hold at least twice the final volume of the broth that you want to make. For example, our stock pot can hold 21 liters, and we are adding 10 liters of water, and we'll end up with about 8 liters of broth. And now we move on to the meat. We just need to cut it into large pieces. We'll just continue to cut up these beef ribs and add it all to the pot along with our joints, the knees, the shins, that will give our bone broth density as well as flavor and nutrition. It's the collagen that we are looking for here that will hydrolyze during the long cooking time to generate animal gelatin. So bones, connective tissue, and tendons. These are all excellent sources of collagen, so we must add them if we want a dense broth. The difference between the fond blanc, white broth, that we are making here and a fond brun, dark broth, is this. For a fond blanc, the meat and bones are never browned before they are added to the water. Neither are the vegetables. While in a fond brun, everything is typically browned in butter or animal fat before they are added to the pot. Everything's ready, and we put it all in the pot. Notice that we are adding everything in cold water. Our vegetables, 60 grams of salt, and now we bring it to a boil. At this point on, armed with a small strainer and a lot of love, we will continue to gently skim off the foam that rises to the surface of our broth, defoaming and degreasing the broth. You'll need to do this work many times, especially during the first hour or 2 of cooking. So how long does this broth need to cook for? At least 3 hours, but honestly, 3 hours can never do justice to the ingredients that we've used here. Above all, to extract the nutrients and the benefits from the bone that we've added, we want to simmer this broth for many hours. This broth that you see here, we will simmer it for a good 15 hours on low heat, refilling the water if needed once 2 to 3 liters have boiled off. The best food always requires time, exquisite food even more, and that is especially true of bone broth. Here we are. Our patience has paid off. The smell of this fond blanc is absolutely amazing. The thickness of the broth is perfect, and all that is left to do is filter our broth. And of course, while we are making excellent bone broth, we also prepared some tasty stewed meat. So check our cooking channel for ideas on using the meat that remains after making this broth. And now we've reached the filtering stage. We have left our broth in the refrigerator to let any remaining fat separate and rise to the surface. In this bowl, we have the unfiltered broth, in the other, the broth ingredients, which we've removed. Here we are taking a slotted spoon to remove the final bits of fat that have risen to the top of the broth. And then we just filter our bone broth with 2 layers of cheesecloth. After this step, our bone broth will have almost reached the maximum purity. Now we can just divide it into sensible portions and freeze it. When you want to use your broth, just defrost it, And you can, if you want, remove any last residues of fat that rise to the surface that have escaped the filtering stage. Or don't. It's your choice. Look at how lovely this broth is. It's calling for some homemade Italian tortellini, which in fact is a traditional use of this bone broth in Italy. You've just learned how to make a white bone broth, a fond blanc of the highest quality, with an intense flavor and a texture that will make you wonder how you ever settled for store-bought broth. Did you like this video? Did you learn something new? Give us a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to the Piatto Recipes channel. Click the bell for new video notifications. And let us know how you use your bone broth in the comments. And buon appetito!